This episode is brought to you by the Marine Corps League. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Semper Fidelis.
On today's episode, we welcome one of the Lost Art Project veterans' voices, historical archivist, to bring us another veteran story.
Yay, this is Dee Galvin, historical archivist, here to interview Donna Chambers today from Air Force. She's an Air Force veteran. She's wife of Jim Chambers, who I interviewed last week. So if you want to go back and check that one out, please do so. Jim's going to visit us today at the very end, just for a quick closing for the couple. And without further ado, and I do these interviews for honor of my husband, a Marine guarding the gates of heaven right now, Dana Bruce Galvin. So welcome, Donna Chambers. So happy to see you here today.
Hi, Dee.
How's your afternoon going so far?
Oh, it's fantastic. And now I get to spend it with you, so it just got a whole lot better.
Oh, you're so awesome. I'm excited. I didn't get to say this last time. I met Donna and Jim through their daughter, Vicky, who is at the Elks Lodge with me. I just became a member, just got initiated this month. So happy to be there and meet lots of veterans and support them. So Donna, what was your childhood like growing up? How was that?
It was actually an amazing childhood. I was a farm girl, so I grew up in rural Pennsylvania. Even today, the whole county has 2 stoplights, so it hasn't grown much over the last 70 plus years. But it was a lot of fun. You know, I'm a nature girl, so that just fit me to a T to grow up that way. But we were a small dairy farm, and I was one of the farm hands. It was my mom and me after my grandfather passed away. So we actually lived with my grandparents at the beginning. And my grandfather was probably the first blessing, because he used to make me get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had to sit on his lap and do my homework. I had to do my spelling and reading assignments when I was like in first and second grade. But he kept telling me, he said, I don't care what you want to be, you can do it. Whatever you dream you want to be, you can be anything. And that stuck with me, that there wasn't anything that could stop me except me. And that just really hung in there. And Jim has told me many, many times that how fortunate I was to have that kind of guidance from such an early age. But then when he passed away, then my uncle took over the farm, and we continued to live with him and my grandmother. And, it was my mom and me and him. We were the farm hands. And so I did everything outdoors, like making hay and combining the grain and whatever needed to be done outdoors if the sun was shining. And if it wasn't, then it was time to do the indoor stuff, like, picking the vegetables and canning and freezing and sewing my own clothes. So it really was one of those kinds of lifestyles. And I never thought about not having things. I mean, we were very poor. But it never felt like we were, because we always had food, we always had lots of love, and we always had, the basics in life. And so you just never thought about the things you didn't have. You appreciated the things that you did. And I'm really grateful for that childhood, because it stuck with me through my entire life, even today.
Oh, that sounds awesome, growing up on the farm. Thank you for sharing that. So what made you decide to join the Air Force? What was your decision that led to that?
My family was a military family. So from my grandfather who served, my uncle who took over the farm was in the Army. He had been wounded in World War II. He lost one of his lungs through that process. He still carried some of the shrapnel with him, his entire life. I had another uncle who served in the Army, another uncle who lost a leg through the Army, and another uncle who served in the Navy. So it was really where the whole family just served. But probably the most important thing was the patriotism that we grew up with. It was always respect for the country, respect for other people, and respect for the rights that other people had, to accept people for who they were and don't judge people. So it was that combination that really drove me, that I wanted to be in the military, but nobody had ever been in the Air Force. I like the fact that I could have worn, blue jeans, bell-bottom blue jeans back in the 70s with the Navy, but I couldn't swim, so I didn't think that was probably a good match for me. And I knew that the Army was probably not for me at that particular stage in my life, but I loved the idea of travel. And so travel and flying seemed to go together, so the Air Force it was.
Yay, that's awesome. And so how was boot camp when you were in boot camp? You got some fun stories or how was your experience?
It was good. It really taught me a lot, I guess, because I was well, gee, I had never been on a plane before, so that was my first time to get on a plane was going to San Antonio to Lackland Air Force Base. I had never met anybody that didn't grow up exactly like me because everybody was farm people. Everybody, lived the way that I lived, so I had never met anybody that with a different accent, anybody with a different background, anybody that lived in the city, anybody that thought differently than I did. So probably the first real reaction was how different people were. And even though I'd been taught to accept everybody for who they were, I'd never met people that were really different than I was. So this was quite an experience just to do that. And then you met people who didn't really want to be there. So during our boot camp, um, we had we lost 50% of the females because it was also during a time when they were it was very early into the volunteer service, so without the draft, so they were bringing in a lot more women, and a lot of women didn't know what to expect. It just sounded kind of cool, so they were enlisting. So at that time, we lost 50% of the females, and we did things where one female was pregnant, so she was doing urine samples and putting in little bottle things and giving to others, and they were taking them to try to get out, by saying they were pregnant and they wanted to get out. And then one of them actually dropped, they called them ditty bags, the little bags we carried our stuff in. She dropped her ditty bag and the bottle broke, and then the stuff is all over inside. So through the whole process, we ended up with the the orderly room turning us on to a speaker system so they could monitor us 24 hours a day because girls were really losing it at that particular time. And then the TI just looked at me and said, okay, you're now one of our squad leaders. So now I'm responsible for all these other girls. And it was just an eye-opening experience, from somebody who was very naive. And I admit that very openly. I was extremely naive about what I was getting into, what I was going to do. But again, it goes back to my grandfather always telling me, you can do anything you want to do. If you really want it, then you're going to have to do it. And I kept reminding myself of that. And we just moved to Florida. So I was looking through, we actually got it's like a little yearbook type of a book. And it was from our basic training. And I was looking back through the comments because, you had all the girls sign your book just like you did in high school and stuff. And I was reading the comments and it was about, thank you for being understanding. Thank you for being a great listener. Thank you for caring about us and always being there when we needed someone to help us, get through a difficult time. And it's like I didn't realize I had done that, in those days, but it was reassuring to realize that I did make a difference at that time, that I really did step up and help and serve others, to get through a time that they weren't so comfortable with in some cases.
That's awesome. I heard from your husband, he was quite the leader too, and he loves leading and what he gets out of it. And it sounds like you're so much like him. That's so wonderful. No wonder you guys hit it off. Yeah, being a leader is definitely awesome. I'm learning a lot as well. So that was your boot camp. Oh, what was your military training and they still call it MOS and Air Force, right? I'm ignorant, but yes, right?
Well, we called it AFSC, but
Oh,
it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Well, again, I wasn't so traditional. So I had worked as a secretary before I joined the military, and I was a receptionist and a secretary in an office. And I decided I didn't really like being indoors all the time, so I needed to find a career field in the Air Force that would take me outside. And luckily for me, when I took my test, I qualified on across the board on because I was also, like I said, a farmhand. So I helped fix farm equipment. I was always tinkering around. In fact, when I got my first car and the clutch went out on it, my uncle said, here's the toolbox, here's the clutch, crawl into there and I'll walk you through it. And I had to change the clutch on my car. So I was very comfortable in non-traditional type of things. So I chose aircraft maintenance. as my career field. And it was one of the first classes to go through that had females. And so it was a little bit challenging, I guess, to be a female in that environment at that time. And it was also a period when the Air Force was experimenting with a few things. So instead of having in classroom work, they were doing self-paced as well. So I started with in classroom work, then I went into a self-paced where you're really teaching yourself. You have the books and they're teaching you. So I had all of these very complicated schematics, and they were talking turbine engines and diesel engines and gasoline engines and hydraulic systems and all these kinds of things. But it was to teach yourself the systems, and that was a little bit challenging as well. But I ended up as an honor grad when I finished, and finished early. So I'm good at book work. But then comes the test when you go to your first assignment, and now you actually have to go into the piece of equipment and figure it out. It's one thing to be in a classroom environment and troubleshoot things and, trace out wires and things like that. But it was very different when you went to your first assignment. And now you're going to be looking at this stuff and actually having to fix it and make it work properly and safely.
So what was that like? I want to hear that part. You left me hanging.
Well, that was a little bit different. So I got to my first assignment, and I was really excited. I'm an honor grad. I knew I worked really hard to get there, and I did everything I needed to do. And I'm going to my very first assignment, and it was me and 7 other guys. And the 8 of us are lined up in a row, and the shop chief is coming down, and he's going to assign each of us to a trainer. And he went to the different guys, and he's like, and you're going to be working with so-and-so, and you're working with so-and-so, and you're working with so-and-so. And then he came to me and he looked at me and he said, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with you. And he went on to the next guy and went on that. And I'm standing there, and when you're brand new, you're like, you've already gone through, basic training where you're taught, yes, sir, no, sir, all that kind of stuff. And then you're in tech school, and you're marching to school, and you're marching back to, back from school and doing all this kind of stuff. And now here's this guy that's, like got all these stripes up and down his arm that I don't have. And it's like I'm some kind of an unusual thing that he's not sure, if I'm human or not or whatever. And he went through all of the guys. And to be honest, he gave me to the least experienced, least qualified person in the shop as my trainer. And I think it was because he was convinced I couldn't make it. I wouldn't survive. I wouldn't be able to do it. And so every time, and we had to operate equipment, you had to start it. Well, the guy that was training was afraid to let me start it because he thought, well, if she breaks it, I'm going to have to buy it. So I can't let her do anything. So I wasn't learning anything. And it's like, that's not why I did this. I didn't do this so I could just, walk around and smile all day. I wanted to get dirty and grungy and, fix this equipment. And so during our lunch breaks and after everybody else went home at night, I would go to the break room and open up our tech manuals, and I would start reading and studying up on the equipment. And our quality assurance guy kept watching me, and I didn't realize he was, but he kept watching me. And finally, he came up to me one day and he said, are you serious about becoming a mechanic? And it was like, well, yeah, that's why I chose. This was a chosen field for me. I wasn't stuck here. I chose this one. And he said, well, I'll make you a deal. 3 days a week, I will come and I will help you understand the equipment. He goes, I'll take like an hour, 2 hours a day, 3 days a week, and I'll go over the equipment with you until you understand it. And that's what I did. That's how I became trained on how to do it. And then the second thing I did was, once I had a general idea of what it was, I went up to the guy that wasn't sure what to do with me, and I gave him a real sob story that, and I was married at the time, and it's like, I'm really struggling here. I just can't make it work. I'm, to do the laundry and the ironing and clean the house and get the groceries and cook the meals. I'm gone all day. I just can't make it work. During the daytime, it's just not happening. I'm really struggling here. Can I go on night shift? Because I knew if I went on the midnight shift, it was minimum crew. And everybody had to do their job. Everybody had to pull their weight because it was such a small crew. So he put me on night shift thinking, okay, poor thing, she just can't be a wife and a woman doing what she has to do. So I went on night shift. And there I just continued to learn and to work harder. And honestly, what I did, I looked to see how many, we did dispatch things, we did equipment maintenance, we did all of it. And I looked to see what the guys were doing, and I made sure that I did more than any guy in the shop that I was on my shift that I was working with. I figured if they could do it, if I did more, then somebody would finally one day look around and say, "Hey, maybe, maybe there's a chance that she can actually do this." And that's what I did.
I love your drive. But you said you were married. That wasn't Jim, right? At the time?
That was not Jim. No, that was actually my ex-husband and I joined the Air Force together. So we joined as a couple. So we went through basic training together. We went through tech school together. So yeah, we were in the same career field. We did all of it together. So yeah, it was different to do that with
Hmm.
somebody else at the same time.
You said you're an open book earlier offline. Do I get the dirt? Like, how did it end? You don't have to go into it if you don't want to, but I'm curious. And because then you met Jim, so I'm curious.
Well, actually, I think it was very difficult because, as I said, I push myself a lot and I'm determined to do things. And I think because I was a female and doing more than most of the guys did, it was noticed by by our commander, by our deputy chief of maintenance and things. And I started to get a lot of attention. And then when I ended up going to headquarters in Europe, he was great. I mean, he was a great mechanic, great supervisor, great leader, great at his job, but everybody, and he worked really, really hard, but as he worked hard, everybody kept saying, I know how you're getting the newest equipment. Your wife is getting it for you. And it was always, and that wasn't the case. He earned it, he did it, but after a while it starts to build and build and build, and it puts like a little bit of a gap between things, and communication gets more difficult, and that's really what happened. It was difficult to keep up with it, and I was the one that always seemed to get the recognition, even though he was equally as good as I was, did his job equally as well as I did, and should have had the same level of we both ended up retiring at the same rank, so he did get that part of it. But I think it was that constant, yeah, your wife is taking care of you, your wife is making sure, that wears on an individual that's working hard themselves, and not getting that kind of recognition.
Oh, that's sad. But I am glad you shared that story. That's interesting. I like hearing how those kind of like politics in the military work. Very interesting. So let's see, that was your military training. What about duty stations? Was that like when you went to Europe? Is that a duty station?
It was. We actually started out at Dover. So we worked on C5s or the equipment for C5s. The job that we had was to maintain the support equipment that they worked on the aircraft with. So any system that an aircraft has, we had a piece of equipment that simulated that system. So if the hydraulics crew needed to work on the hydraulic system, we had hydraulic equipment that connected to the aircraft to simulate that the aircraft was operating with the hydraulics. We had generators that made the electrical systems work. So anything that they needed on an aircraft, we had a piece of equipment that did that, which was great for me because our career field gave us training and experience across the board. So we didn't specialize in hydraulics, or we didn't specialize in engines, or we didn't specialize in any. We really did all of it, across the board because that's what we had to do. And so when I started at Dover, we had C5s, and it was early. We're talking in the 70s, so C5s were fairly new in the Air Force. So that's a very large cargo plane, and you could drive under the wing and do all kinds of things like that. And from there, I did a 1-year tour in Iceland. So I went to Keflavik. So I was actually at a naval air station. So I did get my Navy set up. I went to the Navy, a naval air station in Iceland, and it was a small detachment there with the Air Force. And we had a force, so we had fighters, and we were actually an interceptor squadron. So anytime Russia had a bear come down between Alaska, we would intercept it. So we would on alert, and we would fly up and intercept the Russian aircraft and turn them around so they couldn't get close to the U.S. soil, U.S. territory. So that was a really good assignment for me, very different. And from there, then it's like, well, if I'm freezing in Iceland, because I'm not really a cold weather person, that I love the country and love the countryside, the people. It was a great experience. I wouldn't have traded for anything. But then I went to Homestead, which was in South Florida. So from Iceland, where it's really, really cold, to South Florida, where it's a little bit toasty and warm. And Iceland was really fun because it really was covered in ice when I was there. We had a lot of areas that were covered in ice. And I remember going and the wind was really bad because we had no trees. So the wind just blew. And I remember one weekend I was like weekend maintenance super, and I'm walking between buildings to check out from one building to another. And the wind caught me, and it's just got me on ice, and it's blowing me across the ice. And there was a guy walking between the buildings, and he saw me, and he like grabbed a hold of my parka hood and yanked me back in to keep me from going all the way out into the flight line. So it was a fun experience, a fun and interesting assignment. But then I went to Homestead in South Florida, and that was a temperature difference, but it was F4, so we were a fighter squadron. And from there, I went to Spain, to Zaragoza, Spain, and that was a weapons training detachment. So we had all kinds of different weapon systems coming in to do exercises away from their duty stations. So from Europe, they would come into our WTD assignment, and they would practice, bombs and do different exercises and things. And I was there for 3 years, and this is where I started. I was really getting noticed now. I became the flight chief, so I had like 120 men, primarily in my shop, that I was responsible for, and all of the equipment to support all of the weapons that were coming in and everything happening. And so when we had a major headquarters inspection from Europe, they really liked our shop. They liked how happy everybody was. It really was a well-run shop. We got along great. And I was Jim was very strict. He was very like, you know, this is the way it is. I'm more laid back kind of person. So, people would get into arguments in the shop, and you'd hear them like, Mom, there's a fight out here, and they come in and tell me, instead of like, hey, Sergeant, I was a Smith at the time, Sergeant Smith, there's problems out here. It'd be like, hey, Mom, we got a problem. So I was really kind of laid back. It was like, let's just get the job done. You all know what needs to be done. I don't need to be, like all grumpy and stuff to get it done. Let's just do what needs to be done and do it well. And so when they came down, everybody was happy. Everybody was working well together. They were cheerful. They were coming up with ideas. And during the inspection, I made sure that the person that had the ideas, or the person that was responsible for it, is the one that briefed the inspectors and not me, because they deserved to have the attention. They deserved to have the recognition that they did this. And so the inspector really liked the way the shop was run. He really liked everything that was being done. And there was an opening at our headquarters in Europe. And so he recommended me for the job. And so from Spain, I went to Germany, and I was at headquarters in Europe at the time. So that was a position where I was responsible for all of our equipment and people that did our job in Europe. And, so anything that needed to be done, any issues or problems that we had with equipment that needed to be resolved, or if we needed people like we had a lot of dignitaries coming into Europe. So if we needed to have people go there to support things, to assign whoever was going to go there, what bases was going to provide the support and that kind of thing. And I did that for 3 years. And then from there, because everybody thought I did a really good job there, then I was selected to go to Headquarters Air Combat Command in Langley in Virginia. And there it was, I was really responsible because I was there during the conversion when we had the airlift and Strategic Air Command. At that point, we were changing commands. We were merging some weapon systems and commands. And so I was responsible for writing all of the regulations, policies, finding out what it takes to merge the two different mindsets into one. And I became the person responsible for the support equipment to handle all the tankers, fighters, and bombers in the Air Force. And, during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, provide people, equipment for any kind of contingencies that we had coming up. So that's how I ended my career, was at Langley.
Langley, sounds like I like how you led your teams. I'm hearing like you used a lot of empathy and kindness, and it really paid off because everybody was happy. How did you think to do that technique? I'm curious because some people, they don't know, as leaders they micromanage or they bark, but it sounds like you really knew the psychology of how to get your guys and gals to really want to serve their group and do the right thing. What's the secret? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is my personality, that I'm really a people person. So I love people. I love to understand people and help them become better, you know. And so the more you understand them, the more you help them to grow, because I'm going to retire someday. Well, you need to have people that are capable of making decisions and following through on things and leading. And if you don't if you don't move your foot, they can't put their foot into place. So I would always try to make sure that they not only had the ability, but I encouraged it. If you had an idea, I wanted to hear what your idea was, because I'm not all knowing. I don't know everything in the world. So if I have 50 people or 120 people that can all have ideas and they can bring their ideas to me and they're comfortable with that, then it makes me look better, because now I've got all these new things to think about. And then not only did I accept their ideas, but then I let them do it, let them follow through on it. And the other thing that happens is that the Air Force was so, and I can't speak for the other services, but I'm pretty sure most of them do it, but I know for the Air Force, they really developed leadership. I mean, they really developed leaders. And so I was really fortunate at my very first duty station. I was able to go to the first three levels of our leadership training. So, I went to our basic one, I went to our leadership school, NCO leadership school, I went to our leadership academy. And especially when you got to the academy, they do a lot of training on psychology to understand people, on communication skills, to improve your communication skills, to learn to listen to people, not just talk to people, but to actually listen to what they have to say. So early on in my career, I worked for a great commander. And like I said, I got noticed a lot. I think it started out being a female was negative. Then it became a positive, because the things I did that were good got noticed. And so the commander really respected me and my ideas and what I did. And so he made sure that before I left that duty station, that any schools or any trainings he could put me in, he did. And he did it for my husband, my ex-husband as well. So that gave me the skills. It gave me the training that I needed to do it. And then when you added that to just my natural personality of being a people person, I think that's how it all melded together, that I really just wanted to make people better and stronger. And, the better I did that, the better I was.
I love it. And what about some of your deployments? Were you did on any of those?
Yeah, I didn't deploy a lot. I did get to go to Mildenhall in England, and that was a good assignment, a good experience. And again, it was learning a different aspect of the Air Force, because if you're at your home base all the time, everything is running a certain way and everything is being done a certain way. On the deployments, what I thought was really interesting is you're bringing people from different bases. So when I went to Mildenhall, we had people coming from about 4 different bases to fill a requirement. So now you've got 4 different mindsets, ways of doing business, ways of approaching things coming together to form one. And that was interesting, because it forced you to, one, think outside of your box, because maybe they are doing it better than you are. And it forced you to communicate with each other to find out who's doing it the best way. And then when you went back to your base, now you're taking new skills back to your base. And so I really enjoyed the deployment just because of the breadth of knowledge that I gained. And I had some new equipment I'd never worked on that I got to learn about as well. But it was really the experience of, there isn't just one way of doing it, and it doesn't make my way the best way, because maybe theirs is really better over here. If we kind of merge it together, we're going to all come out ahead, with the best of the best ways to do something. So it was a great experience and a great shift in my mindset on how to approach things and how to do problem solving, and how to bring more people into the discussion too.
Collaboration. I love it. That's an awesome
hmm
thing to learn indeed. And then what about leaving the service? What was that like for you? And had you met Jim yet? I forgot. Maybe we should talk about when you met him, because you met him before you left the service. I know
I
that.
did. I did. We actually, so I was stationed in Germany. I was actually stationed in Spain, transferring to Germany. And he was in California. He was at Castle Air Force Base in California on his way to the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And we were both sent to a conference in Texas.
Right.
So there was a large group of people, from our career field, all the different branch chiefs and things, and headquarters people were all coming together for this large conference in Texas. And so it was funny because then Jim was curious because there were only out of, I forget if it was 300, 400 people. It was a large group of people there, and there were only two females. The rest of it was men. And so Jim was curious because he had been an instructor at tech school. Remember, I said women were dropping out. I mean, they, quite honestly, the recruiters were given numbers of women to bring in at that time because it was brand new to bring women into non-traditional fields, which ours was. And so some of the women were coming in. They thought they were going into computers. They thought they were going into, being like dispatchers. I mean, they had no clue what it was. They were just they had been told whatever they wanted to hear. They were told that. So when they figured out what it was, it wasn't good. And then when they got to their first bases, if they were a little bit shaky anyway, I remember my first experience was they didn't know what to do with me or who to give me to train. Well, if they hit that kind of a roadblock, they just immediately got out. I mean, they did whatever it took to get out. So women didn't survive in the career field very well. And Jim, being an instructor, he knew what was going on, and he was hearing stories, and he was seeing it and what was happening. So now here he has these two women that have now made it. At that point, it was an E7, and so, which is really rare for women in our career field to hit that rank. And so he was curious on, how did you survive? What kind of a woman can survive everything they've gone through, and how did you do it? And so if you think back, this was many moons ago. So this was like back in 1986, I guess. And so Tailhook had just happened not long before that. So there was a lot of press publicity on women in the military and things that happen and all of that. So I was there with guys I knew from Europe because I had been in Europe already for 3 years. I made contacts. I knew these guys, and I was with them, and I was safe with them. So out of this whole big room of men, these are the guys I know I can trust. I'm good with them. I don't need anybody else in my circle. This was not a place to go out and meet people, And so, and I had been there the year before, and quite honest, the guy that was in Jim's position was a real sleazebag. He was not, he was a real sleazebag. So when Jim came up to be introduced to me, it was like, oh God, here comes another one, kind of a thing. And so I was just like, don't need you, don't need to talk to you, don't care who you are, don't, that kind of a thing. And so that's why I said, I'm sure that when he said about meeting us, he didn't say what he really felt at the time that he met me, because I was not nice. And I'm really normally friendly to everybody, but this was not the place to be friendly Donna, or Donna, the one that everybody likes. And this is the place to be. I'm here to do a job, a mission, and I've got the people that I trust, and I don't need anybody else in my circle. So he walked away going, yep, I know how she survived in this career field. It wasn't through being a nice person. It was just the complete opposite of that. So yeah, we didn't mesh on that very first day. So which was fine, because I was there for a certain purpose and for a reason to be there. But then we had to stay for the second week, and that was a smaller group, and all the people I knew left. They were gone. And so now it was just a smaller group of all the headquarters people were there, and that was it. And I didn't know anybody at all, because I didn't let anybody into my circle the week before. So now I had to get to know people, because these are the people I'm actually going to be working with, in my new position when I get to Germany. And so then that's how we got to actually talk, and I got to know that he's really a pretty good guy. He wasn't like the guy the year before that I met. So it kind of opened the door for us to get to know each other. But then it really developed because he was going to the Pentagon in our career field, and I was at headquarters Europe in our career field. So if he needed or wanted anything from Europe, he had to go to me. And if I needed anything, support, funding, new equipment, an issue solved, I had to go through him. So we actually were forced to work together and begin to respect each other, professionally, to really know that we each cared about what we were doing. We each cared about our career field, the people in our career field, making it better and improving things, and gained a lot of respect for each other, and developed a friendship. So.
I'm going to rewind just a little because that part where you said when he first met you, I don't know if you watched the video because it's been posted.
I haven't yet, no.
Oh, that's funny. Is it posted on Wednesday? And he said he liked you right off the bat. So it's funny how you had like a different, this is very interesting. Like he liked you. He's like, that's how she got in. And he just, but he liked it. Like he's like, she was, you'll watch it. I'm sorry if I don't remember the words, but it was something along the lines of just you being tough. And he was enamored by you. Wait till you
Well, I
watch
was,
it. He was
I
enamored
was,
though.
I
He was,
was tough. I
he
was tough,
loved
but
it.
he thought it was something that starts with a big capital B initially, the very first time that he
Not
saw
in
it.
a bad way. The way he told me,
Because,
he was proud of you about that. Like he was so proud of you. Listen, you'll watch the video, you'll see. He didn't think like, oh, that bee, I don't like her. No, he liked you. He did. And so I forgot that it was a whole year though until you guys got together from that day. That's funny. I don't remember like what he said, but I got the feeling he definitely was a little intimidated by you, but he liked you. Like you'll watch the video, you'll see. This is so cute. I love it.
yeah, I wasn't so open. I wasn't
But
very
he
open.
liked it. He loved it because he said like a lot of the things that you said about the other women, and he was like, "Wow, how did she get it?" Like he was just, I guess a lot of people were like that, wanted to meet you, right? Because how did this woman get this high up? And oh, and before I go to the rest of how you guys got together, he told me to ask you about how you were the first woman to something in the military. Please share that.
I was, well, in my career field. So again, I was early on in the career field, and so I was the first woman to ever hit E8 and E9 in my career field.
Yay.
And
And what
and
career field was that? Sorry.
it was, well, it's aerospace ground equipment is what we call it. So
Airspace ground
age,
equipment, and you were
right,
the
right.
first one to get 8 and 9, E8 and 9.
And that was good. Well, and it, again, it helped me a lot because when I was in Zaragoza in Spain, our deputy commander from maintenance would ask me to volunteer. So I've got this shop of 120 people and equipment and lots of responsibilities and things going on there. But he would ask me to volunteer for some of his groups that he had, because he wanted me to become the face of women in the maintenance complex, that they could see that women could succeed, that women had the ability in any career field that we had to do it, and that they could be respected in that career field. So he really wanted me to reach out to a lot of the women to help encourage them and let them know that, it may not always be easy, but it's well worth it. And to me, it was the best thing I ever did. And I don't regret any second of any of it that I did.
I love it. So, okay, so a year later, now I'm going back, sorry. So you met again and you thought he started to like you more. So how did it happen? How like what happened? I'm sorry. I'm getting
Yeah,
into the
well,
weird.
yeah, well, actually, he retired by the time I left Germany and came back to the States. So we saw each other about 3 times a year. So it really grew from a respect that I was like I was an E8 at the time, and I worked with an E9, and he really wasn't. He was more about the politics of it. It's like, and he kept telling me, if you want to get anything done, you need to play on the general's golf team. And I haven't used the golf club in my life. And it's like, I just don't see me doing that kind of thing. So he used to, after a while, it was really kind of cute. And so he said, after I worked with him for a while, not Jim, this is the E9 that I worked with in Germany. He said, being with you is like getting married. He said, when you were in Spain, and I heard about you and we started talking, it was like we were dating. You were so nice, you were so sweet, you were just this really, really nice person, and I couldn't wait for you to come to Germany. And then then once we selected you and you were coming, it was almost like we got engaged. You weren't quite as sweet. There was more bite to things when you talked. You had more bite to the things you said, and I wasn't quite so sure. And then when you got here and we were now working together, it was like we just got married. It's like if I could have thrown you back to Spain, I would have, but it was because I didn't play politics. It's like, I'm here to do a job, just like everything else I did. I'm here to do a job. I'm here to give it my very best while I'm here. And that doesn't include being on the golf team just so I can get brownie points or think I'm going to get my way. I intend to get my way by doing my job better than anybody else has ever done it. And so I pressured him a lot, and then it became a competition where the other people in all the other commands didn't want him to come to the meetings. They wanted me to come because he would go back with a task that he has accepted and never do it. And I would go and I would accept a task, and then I would follow through and make sure it got done and they got the answers they needed. So people started saying, why don't you just send Donna? We'd rather have Donna come to the meetings. You don't need to come anymore. Which, was like, he saw it as a vacation from Europe, and his family, he could just go back and have a good time, someplace. So he thought that it was like we just got married and I was just the woman that he was stuck with there or something. So yeah, it was an interesting time.
And then Jim, I keep going back to that. Sorry. So then from this person you were working with, Jim must have retired, or I'm sorry.
Yeah, when I left Germany, Jim retired about 3 months before I left Germany. So he retired from the Pentagon. So now I'm not working with him anymore. And he retired, went to work in national security, and I left Germany and went to Virginia. So he's still living in the DC area, because that's where he was working in national security. And now I'm living 3 hours away in Virginia, where I was assigned. And so we still weren't together. We were 3 hours apart. So
Were you dating by this time?
we were. So it was like every Friday night, one of us would either go north or south, and we would take turns. So one of us wasn't driving every weekend, and we would just go from one place to the other at that point. Yeah.
And he told me about when you guys did finally get together, you had these hand sandwiches and how hard, he called them hand. I guess you
And
just threw a bunch of food in your hand and like ran out the door. That was interesting to hear about. And your lives, I guess you were at an apartment when I guess must have been working after he was out of the service. Maybe you were still in at that time. Is that right?
it is, yeah. When he first retired, he got an apartment in Alexandria, which is right outside of DC, Alexandria, Virginia. And that's where he lived. And then as we got closer to when I was going to retire, then we built a house in Southern Maryland, and he was still working in national security. So we built the house. But once I retired from the Air Force, then I went to work as a consultant supporting the Federal Aviation Administration headquarters. And it was we joke a lot about it now, but it wasn't much fun at the time because we were both just putting in incredible hours. 40 hours you didn't even sneeze at 40 hours. That was like, who does that anymore? So it would be, like leave the house at 6:15 and get back at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So when you got back home, you were so tired, we would just open the refrigerator, and we always had lunch meat and cheese in there. And you would just grab a couple slices of lunch meat and cheese and eat. You didn't even have the energy to put it on bread and make a sandwich. So we just called them hand sandwiches because it was just meat and cheese. And we would eat that, go to bed, get up the next morning and do it all over again. And then in the middle of all of that, so as we're both working 60, 70, sometimes he would sleep at work 80 hours a week, we decided it would be a smart idea to go back to college at the same time. And so we both took college programs, and we were carrying about an 18 semester hour schedule through college in addition to what we were doing at work. So there was no life. I mean, it was, the days that you could leave work at a decent time, you were going to class that night, and then on the weekend, you would take a class, and then we would probably do an online class if they had something we could do. So all the weekend is either at work, bringing work home to do, and trying to do your coursework. And we both graduated with honors. So it's just, how much can you pack into your basket before it just explodes? And I think we had it bulging pretty good, but it never totally exploded on us.
Was that house in Maryland? Was that the one Jim was talking about? You guys had kind of like a farm in a way. Is that one?
No, that was actually Pennsylvania. So after we both worked in DC for a long time. I think he was there for 18 years, if I remember right. And so after not working there, but in DC. So we just had enough. I mean, the traffic, we realized, well, quite honestly, our best friend died at that. He was Jim's partner at the Pentagon. So when Jim was traveling, he covered Jim's programs, and when he was traveling, Jim covered his programs. So they became very best friends, really supported each other at the Pentagon. And then when he retired, he went to work with supporting the FAA. And when I retired, he said, "Hey, Donna, would you consider working, with my company, because they're looking for somebody, and I think you'd be perfect." So he's actually the one who got me my job supporting the FAA. He recommended me. And when I went in for my interview and I sat down, the guy said, okay, you've really got to knock my socks off, because he made it sound like your feet never touch the ground. You are floating so high above everybody else, your feet never touch the ground. It's like, wow, there's no pressure here then, is there at all, right? And so we ended up being coworkers and spent a lot of time together. But one morning he was doing the same thing we were, just he was great at his job. So, when you're good and somebody's not doing their job, what do? Instead of dealing with that person, they give it to somebody who's going to do the job. So he was doing the job of about 3 to 4 people and handling their programs, and just incredible stress all the time. And he was so funny because he would, we had to dress conservatively. So, and he was a fun guy. So he would always wear crazy socks, crazy underwear, or a crazy tie. And on a Monday morning, he was in the break room getting his coffee, and they were joking about, I don't know, his socks or his underwear or something like that he was.
Wait, how did they see his underwear? Wait a minute. How'd that
he
happen?
he would kind of like, pull him up, go, hey, I got this today. It was just, he was just fun. He was just a fun guy. And he got his coffee and went back, sat down at his desk, and had a massive heart attack and dropped dead at his desk. And so the next day I contacted the people that he worked with and said, hey, can I don't know if his wife was going to be able to do anything. I said, but I'd be happy to come over, just get his personal things out of his desk and make sure that it gets to his family. And they already had somebody else sitting at his desk, like he never even existed. And Jim and I looked at each other, and it's like, we're doing just what he did. We're killing ourselves every single day, and they don't appreciate it. It's not something that you get a thank you for doing this kind of a thing, or why don't you take a breather, because I think we're putting too much on you. It wasn't that kind of a thing. It's like, okay, who's next that we can put into the slot? And Jim used to tell me that it's like putting your hand in a bucket of water. When you take your hand out, you got a few ripples, and then it just fills in. It's like you weren't even there. And so we decided that we didn't want to do that. There was more to life, and we wanted to enjoy life a lot more. And I'd actually bought my family farm back in the 70s. So, and I just let my parents, my family lived there while I was in the military. I couldn't use it, but it's like, you guys just live there, cut a tree, plant, whatever you want to do. It's yours. I'll pay the taxes. I own it, but you guys just do whatever you want to do. And so Jim and I decided that it would be a good place to build a house. We knew as time went on, we'd probably end up taking care of my mom anyway. So why not just be close by instead of flying or driving or trying to figure out how to do it long distance. So we just built a house on the farm and lived on 80 acres and had peace and quiet and got away from Washington, D.C. and all the trappings and everything that it offered at that particular time.
On the weekends, or was that when you guys said, "C'est la vie"?
We did it for a short time during the week. I actually made a deal that I was going to quit, or they could work with me. So they let me work from home every other week. So I only had to go to DC every other week. And then it was only for 4 days. And then I'd come in late on a Monday and leave Thursday night would be it. I'd stay as late as I needed to on Thursday night, but then I was gone. And you can call me, and, at that point you could do a lot of things, through internet and conversations and things. So, I did that, and then Jim actually made a deal that he could work 3.5 days a week in DC, and then he would be at home. And we did that for a while, and to a point for about 3 years, I guess. And then we said, that's it. We just walked away and just quit.
Jim told me the story of, did you all quit the same day?
We did.
Wow.
We did. We quit at the same time, and we had booked a 3-week trip to Italy because we loved Italy. So we booked a 3-week trip to Italy and went with our best friend, and who had been stationed in Italy with Jim and his wife, and we just spent 3 weeks in Italy. And that was because we knew if we were still at home, people would call, and we didn't want to be bothered. It's like, and in fact, the day we were packing and getting ready to go to the airport, my phone kept ringing and they kept asking questions. It's like, I'm not working anymore, and so we knew that if we just got on a plane, left the country, 3 weeks, they'd probably forget that they'd figure it out in 3 weeks that they could handle it without us. And that's what we did, knowing that if we didn't, the phone would keep ringing and they would keep trying to get us to help them or, bail them out of something or whatever. And we just didn't want to do that anymore.
Did they learn in that 3 weeks, or did they still reach out to you?
They did learn in that 3 weeks because we were just, I mean, there was no
We're
phones.
out of, yeah, you
Yeah,
were not.
at that point, I don't, cell phones weren't that great of a deal.
Mm.
So we just left and, you can't find us, you can't talk to us, so you'll come up with an answer. I mean, if it's an emergency and they're calling us, then they got to solve it within 3 weeks, and they did. They figured it all out. And so neither one of us are really good at sitting at home. We're not good at just sitting. And so I actually got a job working as a counselor for teens and some adults, helping adults. But I was focused primarily on teens that were struggling, were possibly, headed in the wrong direction, helping them with job interviews, writing resumes, and just counseling them on things, to find out what they wanted in life and help them find a way to get it and that kind of thing. So I did that for about 3 years after leaving DC then.
You all give back so much with your leadership abilities and guiding people. That's so awesome. What was I going to say? So, are you working on any current projects right now? I know Jim plugged the business. Feel free to do that again.
We do. We still love to help people. So we're part of a group called Combat Vets Motorcycle Association. So when I turned 50 years old, a lot of my friends were like, "Oh, I'm turning 50 years old. The world's coming to an end." And I was like, what can I do different? And I'd never really, Jim had a bike for a little bit, but I didn't really know anything about a bike. So I decided to get my motorcycle license when I turned 50. And so I've been riding ever since then. And when we were in North Carolina, we joined a group called CVMA. The whole purpose of the group is to help other veterans in whatever they need. And the group that we're here with now, we just moved to Florida last year, and we're with a brand new group here. It's a national group, but with a chapter that's here, it's just amazing. And so they do, if a veteran needs assistance with anything, they help out. So it could be, we had one that wanted about a week ago, wanted a flagpole and a flag in their front yard. So somebody donated a flagpole, people volunteered their time, put the flagpole in. So now the veteran has his flag that he can raise and lower, in his front yard. We have some in our chapter that are having some medical issues, and they're not able to get out. They're not able to get out and do much at all. They're pretty much homebound. So a group just got together and said, "Hey, let's go visit." And every week now there's 2 or 3 vets that we're going to visit just to help them, just to give them company, talk to them, listen to them, just to give them somebody to know that the people do care. And if you need anything, please call us. Let us know what you need. We'll be happy to do it. We build a lot of wheelchair ramps or ramps going into houses and provide the materials, the labor, and build the ramps going into it. We escort a lot of veterans for their final ride, and because it's a national chapter, a lot of times it's where one chapter will go a certain distance and another chapter meets the family and the casket, and they escort them on down to the final resting place. So just a lot of things to give back with your heart. I mean, we do fundraisers, but it really is about the heart that you put into it. Going out to dinner, because some vets just need the connection to let people know somebody's here that you can talk to if you ever need to talk to anybody, or to just know that somebody cares and understands what you've gone through and what you need to talk about. You got people here that you can do that with. So at least once, sometimes twice a week, it might be a bowling night, it might be just meet for drinks, it might be meet for dinner, it might be whatever, but just to get people that don't have that connection a way that they can go out and help each other. So that's a group that we're very proud of, that we really have just incredible respect for what the members of that organization does for each other across the board, and how it becomes a family. In many cases, it becomes more of a family that is always there to support each other. So that's a great one. And then, I joined the military so I could travel. That was one of the, I am from a patriotic family, but I'm an avid reader. And as a kid, I would always read these stories about Rome and London and all these places and things and experiences and whatever. And it's like, are they real? I mean, do those places really exist? And so I joined the military so I could see those places. And I really was fortunate. I got to go to Iceland, and I signed up for when I got there, it's like whatever MWR had for a tour, I took it. I just wanted to see the island and see whatever was here to see. And I did that every duty station I had. I just wanted to see it and meet the people and experience it and eat the food and whatever. So when I retired, it was like, oh, now what? And then we ended up working so many hours that travel just didn't happen. I mean, I thought Federal Aviation Administration, I get to travel some, but no, that didn't happen. I was behind the desk and in meetings 99% of the time. So once we left there, it's like I still had this travel bug. And our son brought an idea to us, and we were like, well, that sounds, I'm like, ooh, I tell everybody, my little travel ears started flapping, and I'm like, yeah. And so we started a travel business. And what I love about the organization that we're with and what we do in the military, especially when you're overseas, you became a family. I mean, young people, I would always invite young people to my house for Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, special holidays, whatever it was, just to give them a feeling of family. And you knew if you needed something, they were going to be there. So you really had that connection. You knew that these people have your back. Whatever the situation is, whatever you get into, they're going to have your back, and you can trust them to be there. So in 2008, we started working in this travel industry. And I stopped counting at about 225 trips. So, and that was in our first 10 years. So we traveled a lot. I mean, we went to places I had never even heard of, names I didn't even know existed, and islands I didn't even know were any place around. And it was so much fun. But then we started talking to people who had never traveled anywhere. They had never been outside of their state, outside of their hometown. They had never put their feet in an ocean or the crystal blue waters in the Caribbean or anything like that. And it's like, well, we'd like to check that out and do something like that. So we started doing doing our travel business and found out that, yeah, people had a lot of fun. People got to experience things they didn't know they could experience, and they could afford to do it. But it also it became a community. And we have people that have been with us since 2008 in this business. And when we were packing to move from our farm, which was a major thing, from, going from 2 houses and 80 acres and a 10-car garage and, all of this down into a half-acre lot and a house with a 3-car garage, there was a lot to be done there. And these same people were like family. It's every single day at 8 or 9 o'clock, they were at our house, and they were packing, and they were moving things, and they were doing stuff just like the military would have been. And what we've discovered is we missed that community in the military, and here that same community is here. They help each other. If somebody needs something, they know they can contact us. One of our members was just diagnosed with cancer, and one of the first people he called was us to say, hey, I wanted to let you know I have this diagnosis and this is what's going on. And then, so now we can follow up with him. We can talk to him about what's going on, where his treatments are going to be, and what his next step is, and that kind of thing. So it creates a community that people have that they can count on, just like the military provided. And that was something that I really missed after we retired. And I'm so grateful that we found it here. And he was our CEO. He's now our chairman of the board. Him and his family do dinners at their home in Arizona. They call it a Shabbat dinner, but where they invite people to come into their home, and his family cooks the meals from scratch. They make the bread. They cook all of the food. And the last one Jim and I went to at their house, they had like 145 people in their house. And they provided all of the food, from the children that are like, 8, 9 years old, are serving people, and they're teaching that same servant mindset and attitude to their children, their grandchildren. And that's our community. And so, yeah, we do get to travel. We get to save people so much money on everyday life things, from, their car insurance to their cell phone bills to, shoes. I bought shoes and saved $72 on my shoes. So, just little things like that we can save people. And people get to travel at better prices, better, like we just had 90 people in Italy, there was just 300 people in Jamaica. There was just, so we do a lot of things like that. But it's really the community and the people in the community and what they do for each other and with each other.
What's the name of your travel company again?
The company is called Viago, Viago, and Jim and I are independent ambassadors with them. And I absolutely love the family that started the company. I love the people that we're with, and it's people around the globe. It's in 60, I think 67 countries now. So it's not just in the U.S. And we have people in Europe and in the islands and all around the place. So Australia and South Africa and things like that. So it's a global company, and you find that the people around the globe begin to connect with each other, and I'm always looking at a bigger picture. It's like this is a little small dot, but what can it become, and what's the bigger picture? And the bigger picture is that when you start to communicate with people, regardless of their background, their religious affiliations, anything else that you've got, but you honestly communicate with each other as a person, you find out that there's not a whole lot of difference. And what I see us doing is we're creating that community that's willing to have those conversations and to understand each other as people, be willing to support each other as people, and make an honest to goodness true difference as we go forward in life. And that's, to me, that's one of the most beautiful things about what we do.
And it's called Viago. It's like Viago, Viago.
Exactly. By way of we go. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it stands for, Viago. By way of we go.
And it's .com?
It is, but it's actually, and then / Jim and Donna.
Right. So they can find you. Yay, Jim and Donna. A-N-D spelled out, or an ampersand?
A-N-D.
Okay. Nice. Hopefully people will reach out. So we're going to do the rapid fire questions. And after that, is Jim ready to come on for a quick?
I think so. Let me just send him a real quick text if he reads it.
Okay, I'll get the rapid fire questions.
Oh, I hear him coming. So he's already coming in.
Yay. Okay, so right after these rapid fire questions. Hi, Jim. We're going to start with.
Good afternoon, I guess.
Good afternoon. We're going to start with the first one for Donna is, what was your proudest military moment?
Wow. Probably my proudest military moment really was when I made E9, when I made chief. That was something that had not been done before by a female in my career field, and where the command, I was at Langley, so the command would give us this little chief, because it's called, you're a chief master sergeant, and they gave us this little chief's head bust. And every time you went into a meeting in the command, you didn't take it with you when you left, but any time you went into a meeting in the command, you had to take this little chief's bust with you and put it in front of you to say, I'm a new chief, I'm the newest chief. And then you kept hoping somebody was going to come in next and be the next one that you could give that chief to somebody else. But that was probably my proudest moment, was when I got that line number and knew that, because when I enlisted, I didn't enlist for 4 years. I enlisted for 20 in my mind. It was going to be a career. And if you're going to give it anything, you, as my grandfather said, you give it the best you've got, and you can and will do things that other women haven't done. So it was like I did it for him.
Yay, I love that. And then the next one is, what is your most embarrassing military moment?
I don't know if I really feel like I ever embarrassed myself. I don't know that I really have one that I was really embarrassed.
Jim, do you know one she was embarrassed about? That she forgot? He's thinking too, huh?
Nothing comes to mind. She's pretty thorough.
Aww.
Yeah. I really don't. Oh, I know. I do have one. I do. And it wasn't really embarrassing, but it was a tough one for me. And so I just been assigned to Spain and put in charge of a section. And I had one of the NCOs come into my office, and he told me that I needed to transfer him to another section because he could not work for a woman. And it just threw me. I mean, I never, once I put on the uniform, I didn't see myself as a woman. I was a mechanic and a rank and an NCO like everybody else was. And so it really, I struggled initially, that somebody is really coming in and telling me they can't work for me because I'm a woman. He didn't even know me. He didn't know if I was good or bad or anything about me. It was his belief, that it just couldn't be done. And so I looked at him and smiled and I said, well, that's great. I appreciate you telling me that, but I'm not going to approve you to go on any place, And it's like, I'm an NCO, you're an NCO, you're not a man and I'm not a woman. We are NCOs and we have a job to do. I'm going to do my job and I expect you to do yours. And we're going to go forward from there. And he was a little bit upset and ticked off and left. And, about 3 months later, he came in and apologized and said that I was the best person he had ever worked with. And he was sorry, but it was an embarrassment to me to be called out to being a woman. But then in the end, it turned into a positive because I think I flipped his mindset that it wasn't about being a man or woman. It was really about doing your job, regardless of who you were and what you were, that you just did your very best and people would appreciate you for that. So it was kind of embarrassing when it happened.
Yeah.
Because I went home and it bothered me a lot for a long time, like probably until he came in and said that he was good to go, that it was really something that bothered me. Am I ever going to get by this, past this part of who I am kind of thing.
I love that you flipped the switch on it, though. Awesome. And then the next one, if you could be one military leader for a day, who would that be?
I would probably be it's changed so much since I retired.
That's okay. You could use someone from back then, anyone. They don't have to be living or passed away. Living or passed away, either one.
I would probably be that very first person I had that said he didn't know what the hell to do with me, that guy. I would be him, and I would make a difference of all the people that came in with my mindset.
Love it. That's awesome. And the next one is, what is one lesson or skill you learned that you still use today?
Listening. I pride myself on being able to be quiet and actually listen, not try to create an answer, which is why I pause when you ask me a question. I don't try to think of what you're going to ask. It's like, I want to hear what you have to say. So if I'm talking to somebody, to really be quiet and make a conscious effort to listen to their full thought and give them the patience. Sometimes it takes somebody a while to really put their thought together and to be able to listen to that full thought and then give them an answer if they're looking for an answer. That's based on what their comments were.
That's a great skill. I'm still working on it today. In the zombie apocalypse, what would your weapon of choice be and what anthem would be playing?
My weapon of choice would be, it wouldn't be a weapon that currently exists. I would have a weapon that puts out a blast of just energy that just blows things up, so that it would have this powerful beam of energy that I could put wherever I wanted it to go and control what happened. And the anthem would be, what is it? Thunder, the thunder beating, the really heavy thunder going.
Love it. Your weapon is almost the same as Jim's. That's funny. You guys are a lot alike. That was cool. That was cool. And then, what animal best describes your time in service?
What's an animal that's really persistent?
Your squirrels.
My squirrels. I don't want to be a squirrel. It would be something that was really persistent because I never gave up on anything. And I still don't today. If I really want something, don't give up easily. Um, I'd probably say my German Shepherd Baron that I just had. He was, we lost him a couple years ago, but he never, if he really wanted something, he bugged you until you finally gave it to him. So I'd probably be him for that reason of just, he was defensive. So if he felt that there was a threat or the potential of a threat, he was postured and let you know he was ready, which I tended to do in the military. And then when he wanted something or thought something, he didn't back down or give up. And I tended to do that in the military as well.
I love that. That's awesome. Knowing what you know now, would you do it all over again?
100% yes. I grew up in the military. I obviously met, Jim, which has just been the best thing in my life to do that. And not only to meet Jim, but it gave me an instant family because I made a conscious decision when I enlisted in the military not to have children because I wanted to focus on my career. I didn't join the military for any other reason other than to be a military person and to, reach the top rank. That was my goal, was to give it my very best. And so I didn't have any children during my career. And so I was very, very blessed that Jim did have 3 children. They were adults by that time. And it gave me, my heart and soul, they are my children, and our grandchildren the same way, and great-grandchildren at this point. So I would do it all over again, and I don't think I would change any of it.
Awesome. And then what words of wisdom would you have for our listeners? People young people might want to join the military someday, other veterans, even family, any words of wisdom?
I think that the biggest thing for me is, and I have something on my wall here. It says dreaming big dreams. And in the back I have, dream big. And so a lot of times through life, through circumstances, whether it's family, friends, teachers, environment, just whatever it is, we tend to limit ourselves. We convince ourselves we can't do it. I don't want to take a chance. I couldn't do it anyway. Why would I do that? And to me, just believe in yourself. If you want to travel, if you really want to make a difference, you want to make people that think differently than you do, that live differently than you do, the military is a place to do it. They're going to give you the skills. They're going to give you the opportunity if you really and truly give it your best, and you can make a difference. You're not just going to make a difference in your life, but you make a difference in the lives of the people that you meet, the people that you get to train, the people that you get to serve with, the experiences that you have. I grew up where everybody was exactly the same, and now I don't know anybody that's the same. Nobody is, the accents, the belief systems, the experiences in life. You grow from all of that on every single person that you meet, and there's no broader spectrum than the military to meet people that are different and that can help expand your awareness, your belief system, you just grow in every aspect of your life through the military.
That's awesome. I love that. And can Jim scoot over?
Yes, ma'am. He's right here.
Scooted. I just
Hey there.
wanted you both to do a sign off together, and any other messages for your family, anything at all. Yeah, a kiss would be awesome too. That's how you look at each other. I'm like, go for it.
Oh, we're good.
Oh, darn.
I would look forward to the future. There's so much negativity and divisiveness in this country right now, at least on the television. If you're watching the news and you're listening to it, politics is a major part of it, but it goes deeper than that. There's an underappreciation, I believe, for this country and what it's achieved in this 250th anniversary and all. And were we perfect? Of course not. But we are the best in the world. No one has succeeded as long as we have, especially with this little experiment called democracy. But it's worth saving. It's worth keeping. And this economy that we have produces more opportunity, more people that have more of what they want than any other type of economy or system anywhere in the world. So it deserves protecting and using. Go do your best. Go step out and dream, as Donna says, but both go fulfill your dreams because you can in this country. So protect it for sure. We swore long ago to protect this country from enemies, foreign and domestic, external and within this country. And you see a lot more of that of late. People that have gotten off track, people that have gotten bad mental thinking that they've acquired over several years in a particular system or school system or something, wherever. We have to be aware of that. We have to protect this country from that. So that's my advice. It's well worth saving. Another 100 years, it'll be even better.
Yay. Jim and Donna Chambers, a couple that met in Air Force right here. Any other messages for your family? Anything at all? This is historical archive for everyone to watch forever.
I think for me, I agree with everything that Jim said. And as I said, you know, in my family, it was a very patriotic family. So it's not about, I look at everything on, and Jim and I have a phrase that we use, it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. So sometimes when something doesn't go our way, it's like, I don't believe that just happened to me. Well, no, it happened for me because there's a reason that it happened. And if you have the right mindset going into anything in life, you can find out what it was for and make it good for you because it happened. So you learn something. There's a lesson to be learned in everything that happens. And if we go into it with the wide open eyes and mindset, then we can flip it into something that's really good. And we did learn something. Now we know not to do that again, but we make a difference in our life. And all the people that come in contact with us, we change their lives at the same time because rather than being negative or whatever, we're cheerful, we're happy. People want to be around you because they know you're going to be a good person to be around and you're going to help them to feel better about themselves, their life, and where you go. So approach things in life on how can I make it better? Don't look at what's wrong with it. It's like, okay, what can I do? What little thing can I do that's going to make it better, not just for me, but for anybody else that comes along after me? And if we all go out to just make a little step forward, the whole world starts to change. And it makes a huge, huge difference in the process.
I love it.
We believe very strongly in the law of attraction. And I see it at work in good ways and not so good ways with people all the time. So we work very hard on controlling your thoughts, on staying positive, and implementing your big dreams in your dreams. The more you can implement your dreams, you can see yourself doing that next big thing, the more likely you are to have it.
Oh, I love it. Anything else to share?
I think I'm good, Dee. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. You guys are just amazing. The Lost Art Project is fantastic. It's such a great vision. And, we're just honored to be part of it and appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And a quick plug. This is the Valhalla Project. AJ's always promoting them because they're doing a lot of great things with helping veterans when they're depressed and preventing suicides. Veteran suicide, it's a thing. It happens a lot. And just supporting them. Everyone go check them out. They even have clothes and things you can buy. I bought a lot of t-shirts already. And so I can support them when I go out in public and just support their foundation by buying shirts and coffee cups and whatever. They have all kinds of stuff. So that's a little plug I wanted to put out there for the world. And God bless you both. Thank you so much for coming. I'm just honored to have interviewed both of you. You had such an awesome career and you gave so much to everyone you came into contact with, even me. I mean, your giving just keeps going and I'm just honored. Thank you so much for coming here and interviewing today. And without that, all I have to say is heroes don't wear capes. They wear dog tags.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you, Dee.
You served on active duty with purpose. Get that purpose back by joining the Marine Corps League.
Support the Lost Art Project Veterans Voices. Enter our quarterly raffle for a Saddleback Leather Company flight bag. 1 ticket for $10 or 3 for $25. Support veterans. Enter now. Every veteran has a story. Every story is a piece of history. Join the project as we collect, preserve, educate, and inspire. The Lost Art Project. Veterans' Voices. Preserving voices. Protecting legacies.